Welcome to your CCPS Science Review Lab. Today, let's start off by describing this bubble. Any particular parts of it stand out to you as interesting? Go ahead and take a minute and write in your notebook. How would you describe this bubble? Okay, maybe you talked about its shape and you said it was spherical. Maybe you noticed that some parts looked clear and some parts looked kind of white and almost crystalline. Did you happen to notice around the bubble there looked like there was ice or snow? Maybe you realized that the bubble itself is frozen. Well, what we're talking about here are the different properties of this example of matter. So, let's talk about how we can categorize and compare matter based on its physical properties. Okay, a physical property is a characteristic of matter that we can observe or measure without changing it. So if I go back to my bubble here, I can observe the shape, and I'm not making any change as I make that observation, right? I can observe that it is spherical. I can observe that part of it is frozen. Now, if it's frozen, that means we're talking about its phase of matter. We know if it's frozen, that means that that part is a solid. What phase of matter do you think the clear part is? If you're guessing a liquid, you're right. And what about the inside of the bubble? If you figured that's a gas, you're correct there as well. So, when we're talking about physical properties of matter, we can talk about its freezing point. That's the temperature at which it goes from a liquid to a solid. Its boiling point. That's the temperature where it goes from a liquid to a gas. We can talk about its density. We can also talk about its magnetism. Is it magnetic? So for example, if I take a magnet and I put it next to a piece of metal to test whether it's magnetic or not, am I changing that metal? No, I'm not. So I know that magnetism is an example of a physical property. I can check its conductivity. So does it conduct electricity? Do I have to change something to see if it conducts electricity? I do not. Therefore, conductivity is a physical property. Now, another thing that we know about physical properties, if I take a sample of something, so say I were to take a copper wire, with the exception of measuring its length or its shape, okay, it doesn't matter how big or how small that sample is. That whole sample, all of it is going to have the same freezing point. All of it is going to have the same boiling point. The density of it is going to remain the same throughout the entire sample. Whether it's magnetic or whether it's a good conductor, all of those things are going to stay the same, even if it's teeny tiny or a really large sample. So, again, we said magnetism. We can check by using a magnet. Okay, if an object is attracted to the magnet, we know it's considered magnetic. There's only a few metals that are actually magnetic, and those would be iron, nickel, cobalt, and any mixture of metals with those would have a magnetic property. We seem to spend a lot of time coming back to the different phases of matter and the vocabulary attached to them. So we know liquid going to a solid has a freezing point. And in the case of, say, water, we know that it freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. Water also has a boiling point. That's where it goes from a liquid to a gas, and that would be 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. And we know it also has a melting point. Okay, so that melting point is also at 0 degrees, but now we're adding energy, so it's going from a solid to a liquid. So freezing point, boiling point, and melting point, those are all properties of matter. Now, here's your chance to show what you know. Below, there's going to be a link to this reading passage. You're going to go through and finish the reading passage as well as the activities that follow along. And that's going to make sure that you understand the physical properties of matter. Good luck!